Hey, it's Derek from WatchMeCode.net. So a friend of mine, Josh Earl, specifically from the Entre Programmers podcast and mastermind group, he's been working on this info product, some educational material for email marketers, basically. He's teaching email marketers how to build better email and make more sales out of it. It's, quite frankly, some pretty brilliant work, but he's been working on this product for months and months and months at this time, and a while back, he was emailing our private mailing list and asking questions about how he should move forward from where he is to get to his deadline of, I think it was August of this year, a couple of months from now. He needs to get from all of this research that he has to a finished, complete product that is going to make him some income. Otherwise, he's going to be in some trouble financially, and he's going to have to probably take on some new client work and just generally set things back significantly. And so he asked some questions, some very pointed questions about some ideas that he had in order to get this thing done. And as we started talking through this private email list, I started to realize that he was asking the wrong questions, and looking at this from kind of a backward perspective, it was as if he was trying to swim across a moving river and halfway through decides that he should turn around, go build a boat, and then take the boat across to the other side. Probably not the best choice right in the middle of the raging river. But, we talked a little bit more, and I think eventually he got the right idea and is going to head down the right path. So what is that right path? What was the right thing to do? Well, I'll tell you that in a second. So years ago, I had my very first job as a software developer outside of college, outside of, all of the stuff that I had learned on my own. This was my first full-time professional job. And I was the only software developer on the team. In fact, I was the only software developer, at least full-time software developer, in the company. There was one other person who kind of sort of did a little bit of software development on the side every now and then, but he managed a computer lab where they did a lot of training at this company. So there wasn't really any discussion or crosstalk or anything like that going on with us. And as the only software developer at the company, I was responsible for a lot of things and had projects to build and software to deliver and websites to maintain and all that kind of stuff. And I found myself having to build very small pieces, one thing at a time, delivering each of those things as I went. I never really had time to sit down and plan a big project and execute for a long period of time. There was just too much work to do. So what I did instead was just build small things. I would build, this little piece of the website that I needed and publish it, and I would build that little piece of this application and I would publish it, and just went on about my business doing these things. And fast forward several years, and I'm working for a different company now. It's a larger team of about 6-8 developers, and there's pretty good customer base. There's a lot of money coming through, and there's a lot of pressure and a lot of need to get things done and get it done quickly and get it out the door. And we as a team are constantly lamenting the fact that we can't just sit down and plan all of this stuff and really hash out the requirements and have a perfect plan for executing and delivering the software. We were complaining essentially that we had to deliver things faster than we really wanted to. It was constantly hurting what we thought of as the software quality. So there's kind of two extremes here. If you look at that old job where I had that one, that I was the sole person responsible for everything, versus this job where I was on a team where we had one project, but we constantly had to deliver things and we didn't like working in that way. And as my career progressed, as I got through different jobs and learned different ways of developing software, I realized how it wasn't that second mindset, it wasn't that second job I just described, where we wanted to sit down and have everything designed up front and have all the requirements be known up front. We wanted all of those requirements, but we couldn't. And it wasn't that mentality that turned out to be the better way to do things. In fact, it was the other end. When I was working on my own, it was that deliver something of value right now as quick as possible and then move on to the next thing. That ended up being the better mentality overall. That ended up allowing me to really build large complex systems that the customers actually cared about and actually needed. Now eventually, in that second job I described, we came to a point where our manager said, look, I know you guys really want to sit down and hash out all these requirements, because we had talked with them a number of times about doing that. But eventually the manager came to us and said, all right, I know you want to do this, but you're not going to. Instead, you're going to work on one thing and only one thing for the next 2-3 weeks, and then you're going to deliver that to this customer. And this customer is on board with it. They want to see progress every couple of weeks. And so we did, very reluctantly, I admit. We started delivering value in very short iterations. Every 2 to 3 weeks we would have something to send over to the customer. And at the end of that project, the customer was just absolutely thrilled with the product that they had received. They literally saved millions of dollars a year because of the product that we delivered. Now, this was just a variation on the existing product that we already had and that we had installed in a large number of other customers already. And those customers, they were happy, but they weren't saving millions of dollars. They were, making a couple $100,000 probably, and the project would pay for itself eventually. But this customer that had requested delivery of features every couple of weeks, they were absolutely madly in love with the product. And when I look back at the products that I built, the software and websites that I delivered when I was working on my own, I see the same kinds of results. Maybe not saving or earning millions of dollars, but I see the same results in terms of the satisfaction of my customer base. So ultimately, it was the deliver value quickly mentality that allowed me to be more successful. And as I was talking with Josh via email, I kept hearing him talk about that same kind of mentality of, I need to sit down and plan all this out. I need to take this amount of time and do these steps, A, B, C, D, all the way through Z. I need to just sit down and do it. Otherwise, I'm never going to get it done, and it's not going to be a viable product. And I saw in him that same backwards mentality of trying to deliver the end-all, be-all. We just sit down and hash out the requirements and get it done. And I knew with certainty from the experience that I've had in my career that he was going about this backwards. I made the analogy using an image that I've known about for several years now, created by a guy named Henrik Nieberg. It's a pretty phenomenal image that describes minimum viable products and in terms of developing a car. Now, the first line that you see at the top of that image shows some pretty unhappy customers, really. It's customers that don't see the value in just having wheels, don't see the value in just having a chassis, don't see the value in adding bumpers or an engine, a shell, whatever. They only see the value once that car is done. And I saw Josh describing to us the need to design the perfect car by the end of whatever period of time it was, that August deadline that he had. But the reality of what he needed to do was not design the perfect car and try to hold it together with duct tape and baling wire and everything else when August came around. The reality is he needed to deliver what that second line from that image shows. He needed to deliver a skateboard first, and then a scooter, and then a bicycle, and then a motorcycle, and eventually deliver a car. And this is the core essence of not only minimum viable product, but iterative and incremental development and delivery of value. So my advice to Josh was to step back for a moment and rethink the development process and life cycle of the product that he was trying to deliver. Instead of trying to put together the end-all, be-all thing that would be perfect in the end, deliver something small but of value immediately, and then take the feedback and the ideas that are generated from that and deliver the next piece of value. And the key important factor here is delivering end-to-end value. You might not cover the entire spectrum, all the way beginning to end of the full solution. I mean, for example, a skateboard is not going to get me across the United States. That's ridiculous. A car probably will, and maybe a motorcycle would, and a bicycle if I really want to put some effort into it, but a skateboard is certainly not going to get me all the way across the United States. But a skateboard is going to get me from where I currently live across town. It's going to take some work, but there is end-to-end value. It's going to get me down the path. It's going to get me started. It's going to get me further than I currently am. And that really is the key to doing iterative and incremental development of any product, whether it's software or info products and marketing or delivering, whatever it is that you're trying to deliver, physical, real-world things. It doesn't really matter what the product is. You need to deliver iteratively and incrementally so that you can provide value every step of the way, so that by the time you get to the complete and final product, it will be exactly what your customers need. Now, I know there's a lot of opinions out there about how we should do this and what methodology and everything, and I'm not really interested in methodology and terminology so much. I'm interested in actually getting things done and getting the product in the hands of the people that need it, the people that will benefit the most from it. So what are your opinions, though? What are your thoughts on getting things done iteratively and incrementally? How has that been a benefit in your career, or has it been a benefit in your career? In my experience, I have never once seen that fall apart. Sure, the product may be a failure, but typically the product will be a failure sooner rather than later with iterative and incremental development, which means overall you're going to save time and money because you're able to exit faster. But tell me about your experience. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. Drop some comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. And thanks again for watching Thoughts on Code, presented by WatchMeCode.net.